So nice to see you all, already 20 people. So while we are talking, I'm sure you will join. And we are already 4 of us online. So I am with Mark.
Hello.
I'm Marie, and we have Sue Locke.
Hello.
Hi, Sue. Nice to talk with you. So Sue, you're a math teacher at New Worcester College in the UK.
I am. I'm head of maths at New College, Worcester. I've been here for 6 years.
Thank you.
And we're a specialist college for the vision impaired in the UK.
Perfect. And you're going to share with us great experiences.
I hope so.
I'm sure you will. And we also have Mira with us. Mira.
Hello.
Hello. You are not from the UK, but the US, Minnesota,
Yes.
I think.
Yes. Yep. And I am currently working as a teacher for students who are blind and visually impaired, ages birth through, well, right now, high school.
Perfect. Thank you both for joining us today. That's nice to be able to hear what you did so far. We have already 2 comments in the chat. So while you are joining, don't hesitate to use the chat, talk about a little bit of who you are, where you come from, and we're going to start also a poll. So we can see Canada here. We can see Goret Barros. We have Martina, Lisbon, Germany. Yes, welcome. London too. So Mira, for you, you said it's 11 a.m. Okay. Sue, it's 5.
It's 5 p.m.
And here in
It's
France,
6 for us.
6. Canada, I don't know where in Canada, so I cannot tell what time it is for you. We have Australia too. Okay, so
That's a nice way to travel.
yes, we are recording the session, so we will be able to add the recording of this live session about math on the YouTube channel. And maybe we can start with the poll. So just to know where you are from, North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Oceania. You have other questions about what is your job title? So teacher of students with visual impairment, mainstream teacher, teaching assistant, low vision specialist, O&M, occupational therapist, or other. When it is other, that can be great for us to know what is other. So use the chat for that. And you have a third question. Are you or have you been attending our online course? We call it a MOOC. So I can see already 48% said yes, but yeah, we can have 1 more minute just to be sure we end the poll and see that we have, 5 p.m. at Liverpool. You said it's noon for someone, for Gul. We have Montana, Porto, 12 Toronto time, 6 p.m. in Germany, 10 a.m. in Alberta. Yeah, so we have also California, 9 a.m. I'm sure we're going to have someone also from New Zealand because we have some fun over there. Okay, so I can see that, yes, still you are still joining us, but maybe it's time to end the poll because we have many
things to do and
exercises.
present.
Yes,
Yeah.
many great ideas with math. So I'm ending the poll right now. Don't worry if you didn't have enough time to answer. You can do that in the chat. So 30% of you are from North America. We have 63% of Europe and 7% of Oceania. So
brave
yes.
people always.
Thank you for joining us. We also have more than half of you are a teacher of students with visual impairment, TVI. We have 3% of mainstream teacher, welcome. 13% of people are teaching assistant. We have no low vision specialist, but it's about Braille. So we have 7% of O&M and 30% other. So yes.
And no occupational therapist except you.
Oh, you want to say it. So far,
yeah.
wait. So So 47% of you have already been attending our online course, 37 no, and 17% plan to. So that's great. Okay, so end of the poll. That will be something interesting. And maybe we start.
Yeah. And maybe just one thing we could say, because when preparing this session, we have made a list of what could be presented. And in fact, it's quite endless what we can do in math. And we had a discussion with Sue about that, saying that we can share maybe for more than 2 hours with amazing things. And just to have a quick list, it's really nice to use Lego Braille Bricks with numbers and operation. That's what we are going to see with Sue and Mira. In algebra, in geometry, there are also endless possibilities to use Lego Braille Bricks in symmetry, and classic Lego and Lego Braille Bricks. And maybe, Sue, if we can start, if I can start asking you a question, if you can tell what, because you are a math teacher, so what are your thoughts about using Lego Braille Bricks in your math class?
Okay, the reason I got so excited a couple of years ago when the Braille Lego project was just there in a kind of prototype form was that it had the potential to do something in mathematics that we'd not really been able to do before, which is that our sighted students can use a whiteboard. They can record numbers, they can record solutions, and they can rub them out and change them. And that's quite an important thing for children who don't really like making mistakes, especially if they're going to be there forever. So the advantage of Lego Braille Bricks, and particularly for me in number, is that it creates an almost notepad facility that was never available before in a format that was so easy to manipulate, but also in a format that children love. So suddenly the tool that we're using in the classroom becomes a desirable tool to use because Lego bricks are cool. And I don't know children who don't like using them. So it's very easy to entice children to use them, but its ability for it to become a notepad that you can alter and change is something that I tried to do before with homemade resources, but they were never attractive, and they never kept clean, and they never kept tidy, and they were never really fit for purpose, but they were the best that I could do.
Yeah, and we totally agree with that explanation about manipulation, because a lot of time we've seen that it is difficult. We know that manipulation is really very important for our students, and Lego Braille Bricks is a great manipulative tool, and so nice that all students are happy to use it.
Yeah.
So,
and to be honest, the only thing that used to be available that was even close, and some people may know this because it's been around for such a long time, is something called Cubarhythm. Yeah, but the issue with Cubarhythm, I'll just get one, is that they are tiny, and so you already need to be quite dexterous. So they are 1 centimeter cubes. And that's the issue, really, is that typically a child who has VI needs to be developing motor skills, fine motor skills, along with literacy and numeracy.
Yeah, that's a great tool, but that's very difficult to find the correct face that you want to use in the cube, and then to place it correctly also in the grid.
Yeah, and for the thing that I used it for first, it doesn't have letters, so you can't create a place value chart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great. And maybe Mira, if you can just give your opinion. So I think that you're a teacher for all kind of ages, if I'm right.
Yes. Yeah, so what kinds of things would you like to know about how I use the Braille Bricks, or how we came to decide to use the Braille Bricks?
Yeah, that just to have your opinion about what do you think about the use, generally speaking, of Lego Braille Bricks and math, in fact.
Yeah, well, I agree with a lot of what Sue said. Having an option for a learning tool for the students that is familiar to them. A lot of our kids already know Lego, so they're excited to try the tools. They want to do the activities. And for some of our kids who do have a little bit of vision left, they can see the bright, fun colors. And kind of like what Sue was saying, where our kiddos who really struggle with the fine motor, they're able to use these Legos. They stay put, they're not knocking over. So I think they're really great. It's a great way of bringing the math concepts to the students.
Yeah, okay. So we all agree here, but maybe if someone wants to give his opinion in the chat, of course, you're welcome.
No, we have Kerry who says that she still have the Cuba rhythm, but not using it anymore, I think.
Okay. They are in the cupboard somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe we can start now more deeper in the presentation, maybe with Sue, and of your way to teach place value, generally speaking, and all the things that you're doing with your students.
Okay, I guess for the benefit of people who are not maths teachers, first of all, I just want to offer a little bit of justification about why it's so important and why I should have got so excited that we could actually use it for this purpose. Most young children, and we're generally talking primary school age, when they learn about place value, have readily accessible place value charts.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're more or less, maybe for a younger child, we don't start with decimal places, of course, but potentially we have charts, and when they're learning about number, they can be recording the number in the context of the chart, and therefore learning all the time about the significance of that place value. I found, because we teach children from 11 years old up to about 21, I found that children that were joining us who were blind had very little concept of a place value chart, and that definitely was delaying their ability to understand more complex mathematical functions, because place value underpins that. In schools often, we're using investigative tools now and investigative lessons to make them exciting. And that is the experience that I found. Children who are sighted, because I taught in a mainstream school first, the primary schools were doing these exciting activities that allowed them to investigate for themselves. But for a child with VI who is supported, and I'm talking about in mainstream rather than a specialist school, a child who is supported in mainstream with a teaching assistant, which is great, well, the teaching assistant doesn't have those tools, and so they're telling the children. So the VI child is not getting the same investigative and therefore embedding that learning process in the same way. And for me, that in itself, the fact that children can independently go about activities is the reason why I use it. So I just want to give an example, and I have given some notes that have got links to the games I'm going to talk about, and I've got a lot more detail, and I'm happy for those to be sent out. We have a site in England called Enrich, and Enrich is run by Cambridge University, and they have developed fabulous mathematical games that go from primary all the way up to A level. There are practical investigative activities, and this is one of them. So a teacher-led activity might pick out 4 numbers. So, and they just call out those numbers to the children, and the job that the children have is maybe to assemble those orders to make the largest possible number. And I've just used the letter N on the board. to just show the 4 places. That's really so that the children can't cheat, because once you've decided what position you're putting it in, it has to stay there. And if we were in mainstream, then a child would do the equivalent thing, because sadly not everybody has a Lego set.
Yeah.
Not a Braille Lego set. So the children in the class who are working in who have vision or just need large prints, larger than on the Lego bricks, then they would use the more traditional route of recording their number on here.
Yeah.
And so you introduce the game by saying, okay, let's make the biggest number. Let's compare what we've got. Let's see what your numbers are. And then just a discussion, first of all, with the whole class. Why is that the biggest number? Why is that not the biggest number? And once we've established what those rules are, then you can set the children about playing their own game and challenging each other. And that can develop into a really exciting and rich activity. Because, for instance, if we wanted the smallest possible number, what if a child had decided to put the 0 first, which is quite smart? Maybe some children don't think that's a legitimate number. Maybe they think that they ought not to have started with a 0. And then that creates quite a nice discussion about the role of 0. And so as an example, that is very much a way of stimulating really interesting discussions initially with the whole class, and then with a table, and then maybe with a pair playing one of the games that are in the notes, using
maybe just one thing that we can do, because when we are listening to you, at the beginning we said that it is a great tool, it is a manipulative tool, and that's really learning through play tool, because you are always speaking of games, activities, fun
exactly
activities.
Because children are prepared to do that for a lot longer. You know, as Matt, the sort of synergy between what Lego believed was Braille was useful, just is pushing against an open door for maths teachers, because we know children are prepared to stick at a task for much longer if there's an element of fun, if there's some game, maybe there's a competition, and that is what makes learning fun and stimulating in a way that a worksheet never ever can.
We have someone in the chat, Sue, who would like you to repeat what is the organization you talked about where you can get other games?
Oh, okay. In the notes that I've sent to you, I have put a link to that. So I'll gladly tell you what it is, but it will be in the notes. And I've even in the notes listed the games that are linked to what I've just talked about.
Okay.
But the site is Enrich, NRICH.maths.org, and fabulous things. I must have picked out about 30 of those now that I've been able to adapt to use Lego bricks for.
Oh, great.
I mean, it obviously takes some effort. So they're not, you know, any game is not immediately transferable. You have to use a bit of imagination and creativity. And as teachers, we kind of only get that towards the end of the school year. The rest of the time we're preoccupied with teaching if we're full-time. But yeah, anyone who set it to their mind could say, okay, I'm going to find one. You can search on subject. So you can say, okay, I want to teach this. Let me see how many games are there, and then pick the one that is, you know, is most suitable for a VI audience with Lego. Yeah,
great, really great. And we can see also that more and more teachers, because in LegoBrailleBricks.com we have 18 so far numeracy activity, but they are for beginners in numeracy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's great to have the next step. We are working currently with Mario about that.
Yeah,
I mean, more advanced maths.
For me, I always, you know, from when I first saw the Lego bricks a couple of years ago, for me, its power. I understand, you know, people who are teaching very young children and that you're initially learning the importance of the dots for the numbers and the letters. Yeah. That's great. That it's fun, but it's untapped currently, mostly that for learning higher order skills.
Yeah, that's really great to hear that from you.
So I want to show you, if I can. There's lots of variations on that game, and that in the notes it does give those some of the possibilities. The thing that's really exciting is when you sort of give the game to the children and then say, okay, now make up your own rules. How do you want to play? And then it becomes a lot more than just numeracy now. They're problem solving, they're being creative, they're being inventive, they're designing their own scoring system. And it just always is exciting that every child has this empowerment to start to take control of their own environment and learning.
Yeah, that's great.
And the notes you're talking about are in the chat, in fact.
Okay, oh, that's good. That's good. So the second activity that I wanted to show you is associated with the actual place value chart. So I hope that is clear. Now, these bricks come from the techniques set, but they're extraordinarily useful to help children who initially have difficulty in placing the bricks in line.
Maybe just Sue, if you can just describe shortly, because if we have visually impaired participant here, so that.
Okay. So so I've got a mixture of Lego Braille bricks, and each column heading in this one I've got decimals. So starting from the decimal heading right, I've got U for units, T for tenths, H for hundreds, and then TH for thousands. Okay. So it's not perfect, is it? Because ideally we'd have the TH sign, but do you know what? It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, no. Exactly.
It really doesn't matter. Children quickly overcome these difficulties, and in fact, when we had the prototype Lego Braille, it didn't contain enough zeros, I think. And so we just compromised and said, well, what can we use instead? Because we were that keen to get this done. So I've got those column headings using the Lego Braille bricks, and they're laid up at the top of the board. But in between each column, I've used a long Technics block that I think just in Technics, it's just like a track that allows parts to move along. So yeah, I robbed our Technics set for those long rods, and I prefer those because they don't have any dots on.
Yeah, so they
some of the other things you might use have dots. Yeah. And although they can be useful for a child who's just building familiarity with the place value chart, you've kind of got enough to think about without saying, oh, ignore those dots.
Yeah.
So I like these because they are so completely different. So children are placing numbers in here and building a particular number and making sure that it's in the right place value. Yeah. But the powerful thing is when we create a number, I'm just going to pin these on quickly, is when we create a number like 75.3, the child first of all has to put it in the right places to have that number, which is great. And I wouldn't do this until I wouldn't do this part of it until they already understood decimals. I'd use a chart without decimals on initially, and with just integer value columns, so units, tens, hundreds, and then tens of thousands, etc. But once a child does understand decimals, then we've got the means to be able to multiply and divide by 10. Because the most annoying thing that maths teachers ever hear, I hope you'll agree, is that to multiply by 10, you add a 0. No, it's not going to work on this number, is it?
Yeah.
It's definitely not going to work on this number. And so you're forced to multiply by 10, then you are moving each digit across to the next column in order to understand that actually that is what's happening when you multiply by 10. You are sliding those numbers along to the next place value column. And the same, once that's learned, is that they move twice when you multiply by 100, because 100 is 2 lots of 10. And now suddenly we can talk about standard form. We can start talking about the fact that 100 is 10 to the power of 2, 1,000 is 10 to the power of 3. So it's not just limited to sort of children who are just learning about multiplying by 10 and 100. And of course we can divide by 10 by moving in the opposite direction. Before, I'm going to sound like an advert for Lego Braille, but before that, before I had this, for the children who have some sight and can see large print, then I do this with a decimator.
Okay.
That was taught to me by Birmingham University. But it was only once Lego Braille Bricks was there that suddenly I'd got a means to do that same thing, and we can see the true movement. And hopefully gone are the days when we say to multiply by 10, add a 0.
Yeah.
Because now the children can clearly see that actually what's happening, everything is moving one place to the that way.
Yeah.
I'm confused because of my screen. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that is really powerful, and I hope just gives a sense of what we can tap into to not be limited to just teaching children the basic numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe because that's a perfect introduction to what Mira can present now, because you can explain, Mira, what you are going to explain. And also we had a video of one of your child with you talking, and that's and that's a good following.
Marie, do you want to go ahead and play the video first?
Yeah.
And what the video is going to be of is multi-digit addition, and I think it's and or subtraction. We'll see from the video, but multi-digit and a few others where he has to determine if he's subtracting or adding and a missing number. All right, go ahead, Marie. Thanks.
Okay.
It's coming.
So we are doing the problem 80 minus 23. Is that what you have written there? Yeah. All right, so show me how you're going to do 80 minus 23. Tell me what you're doing.
Oh. So there. Oh, I need one. Here.
Now what's your problem in the ones column?
10 by 3.
What is 10 minus 3?
Yeah. 7.
Okay.
That's 7.
Yep, go ahead. And what's your problem in your tens column?
7 by 2.
Okay.
5. 7.
All right, good. Problem B. What do you see for problem B? I'll clean that up while you do that. All right, what do you see for problem B?
One minus 19.
Okay, 41 minus 19.
Yeah. 1. Yes.
Okay, what do we do first?
1 minus 9 can't do. 4, go to 3.
Okay. And now what do we have?
1 minus 9 is 2. Three minus 1 is 2.
Okay, what's the whole answer?
2.
Good. One more of these problems.
Okay, and maybe just if you can explain now what is your way of doing, because also we have really appreciate the way that the storage base plate was arranged, and that was so easy for the child and yourself to place and replace the brick.
Yeah, so this video is one of my students with his classroom teacher, and you can see from the video that he does a pretty good job, but he does need some reminders or assistance to do the problems. The Lego Braille Bricks were a vital tool in teaching him the multiple digit addition and subtraction, and the concept of the borrowing and the regrouping. So you can see from the video how he has space in between the two numbers, which will allow for him to move the Lego Braille Bricks around. So if he sees, oh, but there's more on the floor, got to borrow next door, then he can go on there and take away that 8 and put a 7 there instead, and then move a 1 over to the next one. So now that 1 became an 11. So it just makes that concept of borrowing so much easier, kind of like what Sue said, where we have a tool now that we didn't really have before that allows for the kids to move the numbers around and really get that concept. I have an example of our plate here.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see, and then we have some extra ones down here because it seems like we need extra ones. So
yeah, that's great. And also one thing that I think is also great is at the beginning of the exercise, in fact, your student has to read a regular Braille on a paper. That's kind of an exercise. And then he uses Lego Braille Bricks to kind of think what could be the answer.
yes, well, and if you have a student who's just starting out, the teacher could put the problems on there on the base plate themselves, but as they get older, they're able to do that themselves. So it's good for them to be able to read it in multiple ways. Read it on the paper. Now we're reading it on the Lego Braille Bricks. So how we came about using the Lego Braille Bricks that way is that so that isn't me teaching him, that's his classroom teacher. I made the video, but how we came to make that decision is he was using the really, really old tactiles, which are kind of like they were around before Lego Braille Bricks were a thing. And he used those to do like working with words. And the classroom teacher was actually wondering, man, I wish we had a tool that we could use for math, to teach math concepts. And Lego Braille Bricks were new at the time. And so we had just got our set. And so she's like, I will try it. We'll see what happens. So she came up with the idea of teaching multi-digit math that way. And she came up with this too. So really kudos to her.
And is it a
So-
mainstream teacher?
A special education teacher. So
Okay.
that video was shot in a resource room.
Okay.
Yep. So, and we had tried other tools in the past, but the Lego Braille Bricks work the best for the student.
Okay, great. And that's funny, we can say, because it looks like a commercial for Lego Braille Bricks, but it's not on purpose.
No.
But that's great to hear that.
But your math base plate is really looking good also. It's colorful and really nice.
Oh, thank you so much. And I think it's really important to remember that a lot of our teachers don't read Braille. And the Lego Braille Bricks allow for them to still teach, even when they don't know how to read it. And the words are so nice on there, the
Yeah.
print. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Any questions?
So far, not in the chat.
No? Okay.
No?
You're not very talkative in the chat, I have to say, so that's holiday for me.
Yeah. Okay, but maybe we can go to the next step where we can show you a few things that have been shared for us with a lot of teachers around the world. And maybe the first one can be something that was shared from the US.
Mhm.
Gina, I think you have a picture of that.
Yeah, I just lost my.
Okay. Or maybe we can.
No,
No, that's
wait,
fine.
don't
Okay.
worry.
No, yeah. So that was something that was sent to us by a teacher from the US,
Mhm.
Illinois, and in fact, it is a scoreboard. In fact, she uses Lego Braille Bricks to make a scoreboard, and it works very well. And also, it kind of way to make addition, in fact, columnar addition, even if it's not that difficult to do. And maybe we can see better with the picture.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't want to use the camera?
No,
Mark?
but maybe,
Okay.
no, that was the picture thing by Gina, but I can make the other way. Just tell me.
Don't worry.
Okay, be patient.
So scoreboard.
Yeah. And by the way, also something that can be interesting for you is that APH has made a lot of things about math also. And Gina Carr is one of the teacher who had participated in making this webinar. And so that's a suggestion. So on the board, you can see that she has written a few names, Mom, Sis, and me. And then they play an activity, a game, whatever. And for example, Mom has won the first part and she had 5 points. Then we have Sis that has 1 point and me 3 points, and so on, all the game on. And by the end, you have an equal sign in each. So we can see that Mom has 11. Then we have Sis that has 10 and me that have 15. So I won. Okay. And that's great because usually that's something that we can do orally with the students or with just the children. And that's great if they can make their own board. So that's one also great math suggestion. And then, yeah, if we can also now move to the live camera, I will present one thing that was shared by a French transcriber. So that's a great tool we made.
What's happening? Something
Maybe,
weird.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay, that's better. Yes. So I'm just trying to find
The other way.
Okay. So that's in fact really made with a printer and
3D printer.
3D printer, and you can move all the elements. So you have, for example, you can place one thing at the top and put a line so that you can make an addition, and you can leave then 2 spaces here, put like an equal here, and then the result could be here. So you have all the elements to put, for example, if you want, we want to make, let's say 28 plus, I'm just looking for 2. So 28 plus.
It's upside down, Mark.
What, how can I do that? Okay.
The other way. Yes.
Okay, so that's 28 plus, what did I say? 52. So 52. And then, so 8 and 2 equal 10. So I can put here the 1. Then I have the 0 in the right column here. And exactly like on a base plate, but sometimes it's kind of tough for some children to manipulate with the base plate at the beginning. They are not having all the skill that the mirror student has. And then, so that's 8. And maybe we can also put number sign here to indicate that we are dealing with math. And we can, if we want to place the sign plus and equal, we can. And what is great is that we can do everything. And so I think that's a great tool that we can add, in fact, using, we can of course use the plate, but also this one. And this transcriber is ready to share everything for free. So we will put that somewhere maybe on Facebook, so that if you have a 3D printer, you just have to print it and you will have your own grid. So that's one great suggestion. Then maybe we can go to the next part, and something that is very easy. And I'm just placing it here. So if I have just fractions, sometimes it's difficult for the child to understand fraction. And especially when we are dealing with other sighted children, sometimes in school, and we are, you know, instead of speaking of numerator, denominator, sometimes at school we say that, oh, that's on top or under, in fact, and it means nothing for the blind student, of course. So it could be a great way to indicate, in fact, just placing that, so that we have number 3, and we have a line here, the tactile line, and then to understand that we have here number 4. So it's a kind of a tactile way to understand that we have something on top and we have something, the denominator at the back, the bottom here. So that's an easy way to do, and really great to kind of explain to the child that it is easy to understand, but if you have manipulative tool, that's even better. One other tool that we can quickly share also with you is that also something that was made and shared by Gina from the US, and it's a simple tool to understand abscissa and ordinates, and to read, in fact, things. So for example, if I place something here, so I can understand, I can read that the coordinates are so 2 and 3, and that's really easy to follow between the line. So that's also a great tool, and easy, in fact, to use, easier when the student has to read the answer that way. So if the teacher places something here, then he can really understand that's 4 and 1. It can be tougher if we ask the child to place the Lego somewhere to indicate, because it's easy to place not at the correct position. But that's a great tool to introduce the concept. Usually the concept is really introduced with a piece of paper, even a tactile paper, and that's great to have also this tool.
Yes, we cannot.
Okay.
Yes, so next month we will talk about science. So
Yeah.
maybe some of the presentation of today that we don't have time to show will be next month.
Yeah.
Or we will use the Facebook group to share things. So in April, yeah, next month is April. So the 10th of April is a Sunday. So we're going to have the live session about science and computing the 11th, the Monday.
Yeah.
We will have one guest from North Europe and maybe more. And then remember that in May, we will share experience about music and orientation and mobility in June. So yes, we already have all the time left. So really thank you, Sue, and thank you, Mira, for your participation today. That was really nice to have you. Thank you. And we hope we can have another or many other live sessions like this one about math, because we have a lot more to share, all of us. So thank you for being with us today, and have a nice end of day, evening, night, morning, and see you next
month. Yeah, bye.
Bye.